Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and we may have just gotten our first official look at some major characters in Avengers Doomsday, and maybe also Secret Wars in a Fantastic Four sequel, thanks to this generous social post from people who work at the Russo brothers production offices. The Dr. Doom suit in the background is just the custom green jacket and pants that Robert Downey Jr. was wearing when he was announced as Dr. Doom at San Diego Comic-Con in 2024, but the Susan Storm costume, and very interestingly, the smaller costume and wig that seemed to belong to one of her kids has us asking some other questions and actually might help us connect the dots with what could happen in this movie. Does this Fantastic Four suit belong to Franklin Richards as it seems to? Or does it belong to his sister Valeria Richards? Hey, I don't mean to get the horse too far ahead of the cart here because we barely know Franklin and how important that kid will be to the future of the MCU, but there's still a lot to unpack here. And I think the way Marvel Studios could bring Valeria into the picture here could be real interesting. So I'm gonna break down what the hell this weird social post is and why you need to know the name Valeria Richards and how the pieces that you thought didn't connect at all are actually gonna connect a lot. By the way, with Predator Badlands coming this weekend, you know you're gonna wanna beef up on some Weyland-Yutani gear like this shirt that you can get exclusively at our merch store, nerdright.shop, along with our new Yautja design. Okay, on Monday, November 3rd, two employees at Agbo, that's the production company of Joe and Anthony Russo, their company that's producing Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, these two employees posted this video that I'm not gonna play fully because it contains some licensed music, but it starts with one employee wearing an Iron Man mask, lip-syncing to Four Dawn Blonde's What's Up, while standing to her back, another employee wearing a Dr. Doom mask, lip-syncing to another song synced up with the beat of the first song, the second song being Nicki Minaj's Bees in the Trap. This remix has already been going around on TikTok in the past few weeks, and I guess some users just kind of like how the instrumentals and the lyrics line up, and maybe even like the contrast between Minaj and Linda Perry's voices. But hey, maybe there is some secret meaning in these song selections. What's Up is kind of seen as the 90s stoner rock anthem with its chorus of I said hey, what's going on? It's kind of like an expression of exhaustion and confusion by overworked, underpaid workers. I mean, if you see someone break this out on a karaoke night, they're gonna be from the clueless generation, and they're gonna be someone who's still trying to figure shit out. And everybody else who looks like me and up is gonna be singing along. Meanwhile, Bees in the Trap is not one of my generation, but it is a song, I guess, about how Nicki Minaj is wildly successful and always in the studio working. So are we meant to take away that in this new Mask Same Task duet, Iron Man is the spent, exhausted, confused one, while Dr. Doom is the real one in the lab working, the young buck who's far more successful at the same task of putting a suit of armor around the world? Really, I think it's just these workers at Agbo saying, A, we have no idea what's going on, and B, we are expected to be in the studio constantly working. But then there's the suits that they either accidentally or intentionally showed in the background here. Now, these would be suits that Agbo probably isn't too worried about the public seeing, because if they're propped up in their production office lobby, they'd be where anyone coming in and out of this building for any other Agbo project could see them. Like the whole cast and crew of Extraction 3, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I know what that is. And yeah, again, the Dr. Doom suit isn't the suit Dr. Doom is gonna be wearing for the film Avengers Doomsday. It's that goofy green jacket and pants and the draped collar that Robert Downey Jr. wore when he was announced as Dr. Doom in July of 2024. But the fact that it's posed here with Sue Storm and Franklin Richards, we think their suits from Fantastic Four First Steps is certainly meant to remind anyone of that Fantastic Four First Steps post-credit scene. Yet still, there is some valid debate over whether the kid's Fantastic Four uniform here is a suit worn by Franklin Richards when he joins the team or by his sister Valeria, because that blonde wig is long. It's longer than the hair of that 5-year-old version of Franklin Richards in that scene. But remember, many of us had a similar debate when that Doomsday Crew tote bag went around and people spotted a new character in the bottom right of the grid with longer blonde hair, and a lot of people were like, it's Valeria. But no, it's actually just Franklin. But the hair here is much longer than that though, which brings up a minor mystery I'm surprised is still a mystery. Marvel never credited the young actor who plays 5-year-old Franklin in the post-credit scene of the movie. Very young actor Ada Scott is credited as a baby Franklin in Fantastic Four First Steps, but no additional actor is listed for the 5-year-old version, even though he has a line in the scene.
You want the other book, don't you?
Yeah.
And sure, even though it's a post-credits scene and it's more a part of Avengers Doomsday than it is Fantastic Four First Steps, composer Alan Silvestri is credited in the Fantastic Four credits for his Doom theme song, even though just like the kid's lines, it only comes up in that scene. I guess it's not that big of a deal that this kid's name isn't out there. I mean, even with SAG-AFTRA rules that all actors of any age with speaking lines or named roles in a script must be credited in a film's credits, it could just be a situation when the family didn't want their kid's name out there. I guess I'm only bringing it up because I hope that this kid in the kid's family family are getting paid. Anyway, when it comes to Valeria Richards, she is an important part of the Richards family tree. Unlike her brother Franklin, Valeria is not like a mutant with Omega level powers. While Franklin takes after his mother, something Fantastic Four First Steps really explored, Valeria takes after her father, Reed. She has super intelligence that surpasses that of her father. She ends up taking on the moniker Brainstorm. When she was first introduced in 1983 as a second child that Reed and Sue conceived in the negative zone, shortly after that, Sue tragically miscarried the child. But later on in 1999, in Fantastic Four Volume 3, number 22, another storyline brought Valeria back. Valeria returns as the daughter of Susan Storm and Dr. Doom from an alternate future timeline. Initially, everyone's confused how that could have happened in any universe until we learn that back in the 616 universe, when Valeria seemed to come out as a stillborn in response to the family's grief, Franklin used his reality warping powers to go back in time and extract the fetus form of Valeria from her native reality and send her, quote, someplace else. That someplace else ended up being an alternate reality where Susan Storm marries a heroic version of Dr. Doom after Reed Richards had died. Thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. There was a time in my life years ago when I was so overwhelmed with my responsibilities at work and some major emotional life events that I knew I should reach out to a therapist, but even though I knew it, I just couldn't. Starting therapy felt like another unsurmountable challenge on my plate at a time when I barely had the bandwidth to do simple things like eat, shower, and leave the house. It got to a point where I had to just be like, okay, today, the one thing I'm going to do is make an appointment. And man, I wish BetterHelp had been around back then. It would have been so much easier. BetterHelp knows how much of a hurdle starting therapy can seem like, which is why they've gone to such lengths to make starting therapy easy. If you go to betterhelp.com/newrockstars, you'll find a short questionnaire to fill out. After you're done, BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist in as little as a couple days. If for whatever reason you and your therapist don't click, you can switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. BetterHelp accepts both HSA and FSA cards, making it easier to prioritize your mental health. In 2024 alone, over 137,000 people use their HSA or FSA benefits for therapy through BetterHelp. So be sure to use yours before they expire. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/newrockstars and get 10% off your first month of therapy. So, genealogically, Valeria Richards is not Victor Von Doom's daughter, but Victor did help deliver her, and it was him who named her Valeria after a woman he once loved. So that version of Dr. Doom would go on to be a kind of an uncle figure to Valeria. And you see where I'm going with this, right? Like if they're having Robert Downey Jr. play Dr. Doom in Doomsday, it's probably going to be a heroic version of Doom. By the way, I think my favorite Reed and Valeria moment in the comics is when he puts his daughter down to sleep one night while confessing the guilt Reed has always had for making the mistake in space that resulted in his friends losing their normal lives, and hoping that someday he could be forgiven. He says this to Valeria, maybe thinking that his kid, who's smarter than he is, will do better than he did. Now, while Valeria does not yet exist in the 616 universe in the film universe or the 828 universe, she does exist in the broader MCU in the adjacent 838 universe explored in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. When the Scarlet Witch came to the 838 Baxter Foundation and confronted John Krasinski's Reed Richards, 2 kids were mentioned.
I have children of my own. I understand your pain.
Is their mother still alive?
Yes.
Good. There will be someone left to raise them.
So that means in the 838 universe, there is both a Franklin Richards and a Valeria Richards. So based on all of this info, let's go into theory mode here. We know Universe 828 was so numbered in Fantastic Four First Steps to honor Jack Kirby's birthday of August 28th, but Marvel's gotta be aware of that numerical proximity to Universe 838 in Multiverse of Madness. And the more we're hearing from Michael Waldron, the screenwriter of Multiverse of Madness and the showrunner of the Loki series, that Waldron was brought back into these Agbo offices where the office workers were making TikToks, presumably so that Waldron could help the Doomsday and Secret Wars team crack the multiverse logic from Multiverse of Madness and from Loki. And I think when Doomsday comes out, we are all gonna look back at Multiverse of Madness and be pretty surprised how much the things that Reed Richards was talking about in the 838 universe connect. From what we know, there's no Valeria Richards in the 828 universe. If she would have been close in age to Franklin, we probably would have seen or heard a baby in the background of that Fantastic Four First Steps post-credit scene with the 5-year-old Franklin. Sue specifically did not look like a sleep-deprived mother of 2 young kids. She looked like a refreshed parent of an only child headed into kindergarten who's already starting to read Darwin's The Origin of Species. So what if in the 828 universe, a similar tragic Valeria origin story did start to happen, and Franklin similarly went back in time a little bit and used his reality warping powers to send his troubled little sister to another universe? That universe could be the very nearby, cosmically speaking, 838 universe, where she would have come out of the womb of an alternate universe Susan Storm, the wife that Krasinski's Reed Richards referred to. Now, I know that in the 838 universe, Reed is still in the picture there, and Susan Storm isn't married to any Doctor Doom, but we still don't really know what Reed's relationship with that universe's Doctor Doom would be. But we do know two things about Krasinski's Reed. One, he comes in and out of locations using technology that people who worked on Multiverse of Madness acknowledged was Doctor Doom's time platform. This is a direct quote from Multiverse of Madness producer Richie Palmer, who said this in the film's commentary. He said that the portal that Reed enters through is, quote, Doctor Doom's time platform. Not a time platform inspired by Doctor Doom's time platform, but literally, that's Doctor Doom's time platform. It belongs to a Doctor Doom in this universe. So why would Reed even have that technology unless he was in a cooperative, friendly relationship with the Doctor Doom of this universe? They were colleagues. They went further than any Doctor Doom or Reed Richards went because they worked together. The second thing we know about Krasinski's Reed is that in that 838 Baxter building, it's patrolled by what? Stark Tech Ultron sentries. Now, we've always speculated that that must mean that there was probably some version of Tony Stark in this universe. But what if instead of Tony Stark, it was a variant of Tony Stark with the same intelligence, the same engineering brilliance, and even the same task, just wearing a different mask? So what if the next stage of those sub-Ultrons was gonna be, and might still be, Doombots? Yes, I'm postulating here that Doctor Doom existed in that universe and that he was an ally of John Krasinski's Reed Richards. In fact, could it be that the mysteriously empty chair, the seventh empty chair on the dais, was not occupied by Balder the Brave, as was suggested by concept art, a stunt video showing Mjolnir crushing him, and Daniel Craig's coy smile when he was asked about this in an interview, but rather that seventh chair on the dais could have belonged to Reed's best friend and partner, Victor Von Doom? If that's true, it would mean that the Doctor Doom of Doomsday and Secret Wars really does come from the 838 universe, a universe that has a Valeria in it, sent into this Sue's womb by a Franklin from the 828 universe, and that this 838 Doom sets out on his mission in Doomsday to stop incursions, partly because of what happened with Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch in Multiverse of Madness. So what do you think of this theory? Comment down below with your thoughts, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Rick Denmon, for supporting us at the executive producer level. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all the channels in the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.